بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lessons in the Aqaid of Imam Nasafiyyah. And we begin by praying that Allah bless us with the understanding and bless us with iman and yaqeen. And may Allah protect us from all difficulties, trials and tribulations in dunya and akhirah. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. So inshallah, as usual, before we continue from where we stopped, we will do a bit of revision of so many of the last explanations that we mentioned. The author, Al-Imam Nasafiyyah, he mentioned وَالسَّعِيدُ قَدْ يَشْقَى وَالشَّقِيُّ قَدْ يَسْعَدُ وَالتَّغْيِيرُ يَكُونُ عَلَى السَّعَادَةِ وَالشَّقَاوَةِ. And Al-Imam Nasafiyyah, he mentioned that a person who is Sa'id. Sa'id, it means a person who is successful. A person who has iman, a person who has taqwa to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a person who attains the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Sa'id. The opposite is Shaqi. A Shaqi is a person who is wretched, a person who disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Yawm al-Qiyamah he is punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Al-Imam al-Nasafiyyah, he mentioned وَالسَّعِيدُ قَدْ يَشْقَى. وَالسَّعِيدُ قَدْ يَشْقَى. A person who is Sa'id, outwardly you see him obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is possible that he becomes Shaqi. Possible or not possible? Sa'id, but in reality he is Shaqi. For example, there are people in the beginning they obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but after that they apostate. In the beginning they obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they seek knowledge, for example, they remember Allah, they do good things and all these things, but then they disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and decided to disbelieve in Him and died in a state of disbelief. This is possible and this is happening. There are people who in the beginning obey Allah, but after that disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is where Imam Nasafiyyah is saying that is possible. As-Sa'id qad yashqa. A person who obeys Allah can die in a state of kufr, or can die in a state of su'ul khatimah. Possible or not possible? Here he is speaking about possibilities. It is possible. Likewise, وَالشَّقِي قَدْ يَسْعَدُ. The opposite. A person who is wretched, outwardly you see him disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then he make tawbah to Allah. Recently there is a person became viral in social media. He became a Muslim at the age of I think 80 plus years old, in the deathbed. So in the deathbed, he recited the kalima shahada. Imagine. So people around him took this video, and then after some time he passed away. He passed away in a state of Islam. So there are people, for example, 80 years they live their life in disbelief to Allah, but at the end of their life they pass away in a state of Sa'id, in a state of success, in the state of obedience to Allah, in the state of iman. So when you look at a person who is Shaqi, do not think that confirm he will be Shaqi forever and ever, because he might be a Sa'id after that. Allah knows. So again, Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is saying the possibility. There is a possibility that the person who is Sa'id becomes Shaqi, and a person who is Shaqi becomes Sa'id. But there is something that cannot change. What is the thing that cannot change? The ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Last time, this is what we spoke about, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he mentioned وَجَفَّتِ الْأَقْلَامِ, that the pen has been dried. وَجَفَّتِ الصُّحُفِ. Likewise, the suhuf of the angels. Meaning what? Yani everything and it has been ordained. The ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot change. What is the meaning and the ordainment of Allah cannot change? Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows yani pre-eternally that Sayyiduna Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu will believe and he will pass away in a state of iman. That cannot change. Allah knows. Likewise, yani Abu Jahl, yani passed away in a state of disbelief. Allah knows. So the ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot change. But when we look at people, we see this person, last time he does not believe, now he believes. Last time he believed, now he does not believe. But what is in the ending? Allah knows. And the knowledge of Allah cannot change. The will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot change. That is why Imam Nasafiyyah he said, Dun al-is'adi wal-ishqa. Al-is'ad wal-ishqa cannot change. What is the meaning cannot change? Because he has been ordained by Allah. Yani if a person who has been ordained by Allah that he is shaqi, he is a shaqi. And it is impossible that Allah knows that this person is wretched, but after that he found out that actually this person is not any wretched. Allah like that? No, impossible. Knowledge of Allah is pre-eternal. Knowledge of Allah cannot change. Likewise, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is very important. This is very, very important. A lot of people ask any question. And whenever lessons in Aqaid, a lot of people ask the question, can the will of Allah change? The answer is no. Will of Allah cannot change. Knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot change. And all the attributes of Allah are pre-eternal. So when Allah wills, everything that is willed by Allah must take place. Impossible that Allah will that a person believe but he does not believe. This is impossible. This is impossible. So when it comes into ordainment, Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is saying that it cannot change. Al-Is'ad wal-Ishqa cannot change. Yani the ordainment of Allah, yani that a person is wretched cannot change. The ordainment of Allah, yani that a person is sa'id cannot change. Tamam? But if you ask any the question, is it possible and for a person who is sa'id becomes shaqi, and a person who is shaqi and he becomes sa'id, in terms of any possibility, yani when we look at in our perspective, yes, and it is possible. But it doesn't mean any that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes his mind. Yani nothing any changes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever he ordained, that is the thing and that will happen. So when a person yani pass away in a state of belief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained that he pass away in a state of belief. When a person and he pass away in a state of disbelief, it is within the ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ordainment of Allah yani cannot change. That is why after that he mentioned وَلَا تَغَيُّرَ عَلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَلَا تَغَيُّرَ عَلى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَلَا عَلَى صِفَاتِهِ. Can you see this? There is a connection here. So this is the message Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is trying to say. At the end of the day, what is important and for us to understand that Allah cannot change, whether in terms of his entity or in terms of his attributes, in terms of his dhat or sifat. It cannot change. Change is impossible to Allah. Human beings, we change, correct? No? Human beings, we are subjected to change. Last time, we are young, now we are old. Are we changing? Yes, we are changing, correct? No? Sometimes, we are healthy, sometimes, we are sick. Are we changing? Yes, we are changing, correct? No? Human beings, we change. Likewise, creations, all creations, go through the process of change. The universe, the coming of night and day. Now we are at night time. Earlier we are at daytime. Earlier there was sunset. There was sunlight. But now how come there is no sunlight? Where does the sunlight go? Now we are in darkness. We are in need of all these lights. Because the universe undergo the process of change, and we are affected by that change, and we ourselves are changing. And likewise, the creations around us. The animals are changing. The animals live and die. Likewise, the mountains. And when we study geography, we found out that mountains move, correct? Not any continents move. Last time, India was like a big island. Then after that, it hit the Himalayas. That is when the mountains form. When there is a hit in the continent. So we understand that. The volcanoes, for example, everything go through changes, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept any change. So it is important. Our scholars in Kalam, scholars in Aqeedah, they say that being this principle of being accepting of changes, it is a sign of contingency. You might want to write this down. Anything that change is contingent. Anything that go under the process of change is contingent. What is the meaning of contingent? And in Arabic, we call it al-huduth, al-hadith. Contingent is something that is not pre-eternal. Contingent is something that is preceded by non-existence. All of us we are contingent beings. Correct? All of us, we are contingent beings. What is the meaning when we say we are contingent beings? Yani, last time we do not exist. Now we exist. So we are contingent. Clear inshallah? Just revision. Although those who have been following, no problem on this word. But sometimes what you call it is good too. Yes.
Regarding the ordinary law,
Yeah.
if you want to put a linkage to the sifat of Allah,
Yeah.
is it that it's linked to irada and ilm?
Yes. Our brother asked about you asking about will, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the linkage of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The linkage it is ta'alluq tajjizi qadim. Irada, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is pre-eternal. So when we say that Allah has willed everything before everything, meaning His will has been achieved pre-eternally. So this is the nature of the relation. So this in Arabic we call it tanjizi qadim. Yani Allah has willed that you exist. Tamam? Allah has willed that you exist. This will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pre-eternal. And the linkage is also pre-eternal. So the linkage of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to your existence is also pre-eternal. Yeah. Qada and qadar is based on knowledge, ilm and qudra. When we say al-qada wal-qadar, ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it covers three main attributes. Number one, knowledge. Al-qada, the word al-qada meaning ilm, knowledge. Al-qadar, it is the occurrence of something based on the knowledge and will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is meaning of qada and qadar. I repeat, al-qada meaning knowledge. When we say qada Allah Allah knew. Allah knew that you are going to exist. Tamam. And He wills your existence. And when the time comes, He brought you into the existence. So the occurrence of something in accordance to the will of Allah and knowledge of Allah, this is al-qadar. This is the hadith of Jibril, the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked, what is iman? What did he say? Al-imanu an tu'mina billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawmil akhiri wal qadar. Number 6, this is very important. This is the 6th pillar of iman. Al-qadar. Al-qadar meaning the occurrence of something in accordance to the will and knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we speak about al-qada wal-qadar, we are speaking about three main attributes. Number 1, it is knowledge, will, al-qudra. Tamam? So going back to your question, when you ask about the will of Allah and the ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, earlier we mentioned that Sa'id and Shaqi, Allah has ordained, correct? All of us here, Allah knows whether we are Sa'id or Shaqi. We hope inshallah all of us Sa'id inshallah. But here we are saying is that Allah has already known what you are going to do for the rest of your life. And Allah has known where is your destination, where is your final abode, whether Jannah or not. Everything is known by Allah, correct? We do not know. We hope inshallah Allah to make us into Jannah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has known pre-eternally, correct? Before He brought us into existence, and He knew where we will go. How do we do? Whether we believe or not believe, whether we pray or not pray, whether we die as a mu'min or how. This is said of our death and Yawm al-Qiyamah. Everything is known by Allah. Everything has been willed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is saying, La taghyira. there is no change. Meaning no change any in terms of his knowledge, no change any in terms of his will. Everything any will occur in accordance any to his knowledge any in his in will. And there is no change any that can happen to Allah. Why? This is what earlier I mentioned. Because anything that can accept change is contingent. If Allah change, what does it mean? If God change? Some people are saying and God and He created and the heavens and earth and in 6 days, on the 7th day He rested. Can we accept as Muslim? Some any religion, they have this concept that God and He created everything, then after that He felt tired and He decided to rest. So is this change or not change? It's change. And we human beings, and when we are when you work a lot, correct or not? Yeah? When you jog, for example, you jog for 10 kilometers. After that, what happened? We will be very tired. So we change from non-tiredness into tiredness. So anything that accept any change in itself and is contingent. In itself and is contingent. Last time we are not in existence, now we are in existence. We change. Last time we are not in existence, now we are in existence. So we accept change, so we are contingent. Likewise, yesterday we are healthy, today we are sick. It shows any that we are contingent. Because if you are pre-eternal, you cannot change. If you are divine, you cannot change. Because the moment there is something change, it means something else caused any that change. Correct? Now, for example, if we do not consume food, what happens to our body? We become hungry. Correct? So there is something that affects our body. Not any eating affects our body. Not eating any affects our body. So whenever a change occurs, there is always a cause, and we are dependent to that cause. We are affected by that cause. We are affected by that cause. Last time we were young, and now we are old. So we are affected by time. It shows that we are contingent. So how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be accepting any change? And some people they say that Allah move from one place to another place. This is also change. Change in terms of transferring from one place to another place. It is impossible to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He cannot change. This is what Imam Nasafiyyah is saying. What did he say? He said, وَلَا تَغَيُّرَ عَلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Clear, inshallah? And this is very, very important, because when we speak about the contingency of the universe, our scholars of Kalam, use the notion of change. If a person asks you, how do you know this universe is contingent? Our answer is, because it is accepting change. That's how it is contingent. So this is one of our argument. We call it the Kalam cosmological argument. Kalam cosmological argument. That if you can prove that the universe change, then you can prove that the universe is contingent. So if you say that Allah also changed, meaning Allah is contingent. If Allah is contingent, then He's not pre-eternal. If He's not pre-eternal, and He cannot become God, na'udzubillah min dhalik, and it will lead into kufr. So you see how dangerous it is to say something to Allah that we don't understand. Like some people they are saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reside in a place, and then He moves anyone from one place to another place. All this is dangerous. Why dangerous? Because He can lead to kufr if you are not careful. Because anything that accept change is contingent, and Allah cannot be contingent. وَلَا تَغَيُّرَ عَلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَلَا عَلَى صِفَاتِهِ. Allah cannot accept change, and none of His attributes He can accept change. Even this, and if some Muslims today, what do you call it? They are confused. pertaining to the will of Allah. For example, just now you spoke about the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know that there are people still, I met any people in this community, we are not talking about far community, they are still confused on the issue of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because some people thought that Allah can change, that He can change His mind. Na'udzubillah min dhalik. He wills something, but then after that He decided to change it. Allah wills that a person wretched, but then after some time He changed, that this person becomes sa'id. So this is the thing we have to be careful. So we have to be consistent. When we say that the attributes of Allah cannot change, what does it mean? The moment you say that the knowledge of Allah changed, meaning He is ignorant. How? Imagine, let me give you an example. For example, we thought something is good for us. We thought for example, something is beneficial for us. Now we take a medicine, people are saying this medicine is good. So we take this medicine. So we thought that this medicine is good. But after some time we found out that actually this medicine is bad for us. So now there is a change in your knowledge, correct? Initially, you have the knowledge that this thing is beneficial. But then you found out that this thing is not beneficial. So your first knowledge is ignorance actually. Your first knowledge, when you thought that this particular thing is beneficial, that is ignorance. Because then after that you found out that actually that is not true. So when we say your knowledge change, meaning what? Meaning it is preceded by ignorance. You do not know, then you find out. You do not know, then you find out. Can we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowledge change? When a person is saying knowledge of Allah change, meaning Allah does not know, then he found out. Possible or not possible for Allah? This is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills to do a particular thing. But then after that, He decided not to do it. Now there is a change in His will. So again, this is impossible. Why impossible? This leads to the thing that Allah is forced. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forced by something else. And this is the ideology of the Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila, they are famous for this. Because they say that human beings can create their own actions. Human beings can create their own actions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not interfere. So they are saying that when human beings create their own actions, they can create their own actions against what Allah wants. Against what Allah wants. So by saying that Allah wills something but it does not happen, meaning He is forced. He is forced. How come He is forced? Because what He wills does not take place. What He wills does not take place, and it shows that there is weakness, and this is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Clear, inshallah. So this way Imam Nasafiyyah is saying, wala min sifatihi. All His attributes does not change. And then he speaks about the prophets and messengers. So alhamdulillah, now we have come to the end of the chapter of Ilahiyat. So now we will enter into the chapter of Nubuwwat. So after this, inshallah, everything will go smoothly. You don't have to worry. Because so far, chapter of Ilahiyat we cover in 45 lessons. But we are left with a bit more. Sometimes we have to be patient, especially like learning this kind of books. Because last time quite a number attended. But now, mashallah, it's barakah. There's a few of you. So it shows that there must be patience. May Allah bless us and give tawfiq. So we will read a bit. The author mentioned, وَفِي إِرْسَالِ الرُّسُلِ حِكْمَةٌ. He said that in the sending of prophets and messengers there is wisdom. What is the wisdom? The wisdom is by the coming of prophets and messengers, human beings know Allah. How does human beings understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if there is no prophets and messengers? Today we ask ourselves, how do we understand Islam? The answer is easy. We understand Islam by the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was sent into Allah, and he taught us what is Islam, what is Iman, what is Ihsan, what is Sunnah, what is Bid'ah, what is Kufr, what is Iman, what is Yaqeen. Everything is taught by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So today we understand our religion. So imagine there are no prophets and messengers. Human beings will be astray. Human beings will be in a state of darkness, for sure. So there is a wisdom behind sending any prophets and messengers. So this is the first thing Imam Nasafiyyah is saying. وَفِي إِرْسَالِ رُسُلِ حِكْمَةٌ وَقَدْ أَرْسَلَ اللَّهُ رُسُلًا مِنَ الْبَشَرِ إِلَى الْبَشَرِ مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ وَمُبَيِّنِينَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا يَحْتَاجُونَ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ أُمُورِ الدُّنْيَا وَالدِّينِ. And he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets and messengers from people and to people, from generation to generation, giving any good tidings and warnings. Any good tidings and meaning, and if you believe in Allah, you will enter Jannah. Warnings meaning if you disbelieve and you enter the hellfire. This is any mubashirin wa mundirin. He gives any glad tidings and also warnings. Wa mubayyinina linnas, and he does bayan. Yani prophets and messengers does bayan. Bayan meaning explanation. Explain to the people ma yahtajuna ilayhi, what they need from the affairs of the religion and also the affairs of the world. So prophets and messengers came and taught human beings about how are they able to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are they supposed to do? What are the actions of worship? How do they able to do transactions and all these things? And Yawm al-Qiyamah, what will happen to them? So all this is straightforward. After that, he mentioned وَبِالْمُعْجِزَاتِ النَّاقِضَاتِ لِلْعَادَاتِ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them miracles. Allah gave any prophets and messengers miracles. Al-Mu'jizat, the meaning in mu'jizat in the Arabic language, and is something that makes other people unable to do. Something that makes other people unable to bring forth. This is mu'jiz. And it comes from the word a'jaza. A'jaza meaning it makes others ajiz. It makes others unable. Meaning nobody can come up with a miracle like the miracle of prophets and messengers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the Quran, for example. Allah gave our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the Quran. Is there anyone who can come forth like the Quran? Nobody. The Quran mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ وَدَعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you have doubt in the Quran, then you come forth like the Quran. Nobody can come forth like the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is challenging human beings from last time until now. The Arabs during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are unable to come forth like the Quran. So Allah said, call your helpers, min al-ins wal jinn, from any men and jinn. Call all of them to help you bring forth like the Quran. You will not be able to bring forth like the Quran. So meaning what? This is mu'jiza. Mu'jiza meaning other people, all of them unable to come forth like it. This is the meaning of mu'jizat. So likewise our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is given many miracles, and one of the miracles the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the splitting of the moon. Nobody can split the moon. With all any technology and human beings have, with all any the latest any technology, nobody have the ability to split the moon. But our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam split the moon. The Quran mentioned this. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The hour is near and the moon split. The Quran mentioned this, and it is proven. It is proven. NASA came out with statements that the moon is split, but they do not know that the Quran mentioned any splitting of the moon. So they said that for the past 10 years, we made our research and we found out there is a linear gill. They said linear gill in the moon, and we do not know what is this, because it is in the center of the moon. All over the moon, there is this linear gill. You know what's a linear gill? Earlier, I mentioned when the continent India bang into Nepal and it becomes the Himalayas. So when there is a bang, what happens? There is a series of mountains. So the moon, what happened into the moon is that when it split, when it joined back, so there is this bang. Tamam? So there are mountains and it form around the moon. Mountain ranges. So NASA, they do not know this. They took pictures. So they found out there are mountain ranges all over the moon. So for many years they are thinking, why is this like that? Why is it like that? So they make the conclusion that they believe that there is a possibility that the moon last time was into two. And then there is a bang. That is the thing that caused the series of mountain. But at that particular time, they do not know that the Quran mentioned that the moon is split and being placed back. So when they found out, they brought down from their website, and this is in 2003. They posted this for 21 days, and then Dr. Zarlul from Egypt, he contacted NASA and told them that, do you not know this is in the Quran? So they say, cannot be. So he looked, there is a chapter in the Quran and it speaks about this. So when they found out there is a chapter in the Quran, you know what they did? They brought down the whole thing. They brought down the whole thing. And some of them entered into Islam. Some of them entered into Islam. There is a person, Dr. Zarlul, Dr. Zarlul is an Egyptian scientist, still alive, Dr. Zarlul. If I do not know, you try to find out about Dr. Zarlul. He sometimes he speaks in English. He's a very learned person, especially when it comes to science and Quran. And he gifted, Dr. Zarlul, and he is no doubt, he's a scientist, Egyptian scientist. And he's gifted in knowledge of the Quran, mashallah. He memorized the Quran and all these things. So he always speak about science. And amazing, every time I listen to him open his mouth, speaking about science and the Quran, I am amazed. I think everybody will be amazed by this person, Dr. Zarlul. It's just that Asia, not many people know him because he speaks Arabic most of the time. In the Arab world, he's very famous. In the Arab world, we say Dr. Zarlul, mashallah, especially in Egypt. I think the whole of Egypt knows him. But down here, we do not hear a lot of him because many of his talks doesn't reach us. And he's fluent in English. He studied in the West also. And he's one of the top scientists, Muslim scientists. So he went into a seminar in America. And then a person came up to him and said, Doctor, I entered into Islam a few years ago, but I want to tell you why I became a Muslim. Okay, please tell me why you became a Muslim. He said that when I was a non-Muslim, my Muslim friends were telling me, you try to read the Quran, you will hopefully, you will learn about Islam and all these things. So they gave me a copy of the Quran. I went back home, he said, I opened the Quran. When I opened the Quran said the moon split. I said, what is this? I said, this is irrational. And how can the moon split? So he said, there is something wrong in this book. I cannot be reading this book, speaking about things like this. So he closed the Quran. So he tell himself, forget about it. Understand? And then after a few months, he saw the NASA documentary, the one I mentioned, NASA documentary, because NASA was speaking about the possibility of the moon, and last time it split and all these things. So he told Dr. Zarlul, he said, when I saw NASA speaking about the splitting of the moon, I remembered at that time when I read the Quran, because the Quran and it mentioned the splitting of the moon. I go back to my Quran and I found out that the Quran speaks about splitting of the moon, and this is a thing that happened in reality. So how come the Quran and it mentioned about this? Revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam 1,400 years ago. He became a Muslim after that. So when he became a Muslim and he met Dr. Zaghlul in the seminar, so he told Dr. Zaghlul about the situation. And last time, when the splitting of the moon occurred, there is a king from Kerala entered Islam. This is interesting. Because when the splitting of the moon occurred, not only people of Arabia saw it, people in China saw it. There are writings in China that says that at this particular day and day we saw the moon split, but we do not know any why. The writing is still there in China. So people in China saw this. People in India also saw. And people in other parts of the world. So we have the famous story of the king of Kerala entered into the fold of Islam. Likewise, people in China. After that, some of them entered into the fold of Islam. And this is the mu'jizat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So mu'jizat, meaning something that others cannot bring forth. Allah gave Nabi Musa alayhi salam the stick and it becomes a snake. Taib. Some of you might be thinking, but the sorcerers also, they can do it. What is the difference? The stick of Nabi Musa alayhi salam and what the sorcerer is doing? There is a difference. When we say mu'jizat, no other people can come forth like that miracle. So the sorcerers they knew that what they are doing is an illusion. It's illusion. Magician they use illusion. Illusion meaning they play with your eyes. You as though you saw that it is moving, but actually it's not moving. This is called illusion. So sorcerers they are famous for illusion. As though you see him fly, but he does not fly. But your eyes, he's playing with your eyes. It is a form of sorcery that they play tricks with your eyes. There are people who possess this knowledge until today. But it is sorcery. It's haram for a person to practice it. And some magicians, I can mention names, but I do not want famous magicians of the world. They are famous for this. They become millionaires and billionaires for making this type of illusion. So what happened? The sorcerers of Fir'aun, when Fir'aun told them to show Musa alayhi salam what they can do, so they threw their sticks. So when they threw their sticks they knew this is illusion. But what happens when Nabi Musa alayhi salam threw his stick? It is a real snake. It is not illusion. So when it became a snake, it swallowed all the sticks. So the sorcerers they knew that this is not sorcery, this is not illusion. This is reality, this is real. That is why they accept Islam. Sorcerers accept Islam. Why? Because they knew sorcery. They knew that this is a miracle. That nobody can come forth except that he is a messenger. That he is a messenger of God. But Fir'aun he does not know. Fir'aun does not know sorcery. So Fir'aun is saying that this is a sorcery. That all these people are working together with you and all these things, and he does not believe. But the sorcerers believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because why? There is a difference between the people who knew and the people who does not know. So when we speak about miracles, there are many miracles and prophets and messengers that Allah mentioned in the Quran. And likewise also later the author will speak about the miracles of the awliya. But here he mentioned bil mu'jizati naqidati lil adat. Last time, if we can remember, we spoke about hukmul aqli and hukmul adi. Hukmul aqli and hukmul adi. What is the difference? Hukmul aqli is based rationally, but hukmul adi is based on repetition and experimentation. So mu'jizat, miracles, they are against ada. This is what the author said. He said bil mu'jizati naqidati lil adat. Naqidati lil adat. Yani it go against what? Not rational, but it go against empirical. Remember this. Do not any make this mistake. Inshallah, if there is time any next week, I will explain any about this. This is the weapon that the West use against Islam. Yani the weapon that the West use against Islam is on miracles, because miracles, they misinterpret any miracles as against rational judgment. Can you see any the fine what we call it, slippage, the fine line. There is a difference that you say when a person say miracles are against rational judgment and miracles are against empirical judgment. This is two different worlds. So the West, and last time they tricked the Muslims, and sadly many Muslims fell into this, that they mentioned that, do you not know that miracles are against any rational judgment? A lot of Muslims believe. So a lot of Muslims do not believe in miracles. Because why? Because they thought that miracles is against what? Rationality. No. Miracles is not against any rationality. Miracles are against the empirical and judgment. What is the meaning of empirical judgment? Well, let me give you an example before we stop. I do not want to take a lot of time. We say miracles are against empirical. Adat here is empirical. Adat, hukumul adi, is empirical. We mentioned that hukumul adi is based on what? Repetition and experimentation. Every day we see fire burns. This is empirical. An example of empirical, something that you see every day. Every day you see fire burns. Burns. So you come to the conclusion that fire burns. What happens one day when you touch fire, it becomes like aircon? Will not any be shocked? Because something that you are so used to feel that it is hot and burning, but suddenly it becomes the opposite. It becomes the opposite. Like in the case of Nabi Ibrahim a.s. Nabi Ibrahim a.s. when he was thrown into the fire, correct or not? By right, then he should be burned, correct or not? By right, based on our knowledge and our observation on fire, that the characteristics of fire, that human beings, if you throw human beings in a big fire, what happens to him? That he will be burned. But how come any fire it does not burn Nabi Ibrahim a.s.? This is mu'jizah. Mu'jizah is against adah, is against the empirical. Something that you are accustomed to, it is against it. This is mu'jizah. But it is not any against rationality. Because now we say, is it possible that fire does not burn? If we ask the question, scientifically, yes. Because science, it is based on experimentation and empirical. Scientists will tell you, if I say, for example, will this file be burned if I throw it into the fire? Real scientists will say, what will they will say? They say, you throw this file into the fire, we see whether it burns or not. Because there is a possibility it burns, there is also a possibility it doesn't burn. But usually it burns. But is it something that is confirmed that is going to be burned? Nobody makes any confirmation. Because everything is based on experimentation. It depends. There is a possibility. Yani, if I throw this book into the fire, will the book be burnt? Scientists will say that based on our experimentation and based on what we have done and the properties of this book, that it can be burnt. But is it something that is necessary? No. There is a possibility that it might not be burnt. Possibility. So, how to solve this problem? They say, you throw this book into the fire and let's see whether it burns or it does not. Burns. Because this is based on empirical. It is not based on rational. Rational, and when we say necessary, it cannot change. Clear, inshallah? Like mathematics, is an example of rational judgment. Yani 2 plus 2 is always equal to 4. It is not based on experimentation. It cannot change. But when we say, will this book be burned if I throw into the fire? This is empirical. So we have to differentiate what is rational and what is empirical. So miracles are against what? Rational or empirical, ya Jama? Empirical. This is the fine line. Clear, inshallah? Because last time the British, when they entered into Egypt, just to cut the story short, they said that, you know why you Muslims are backward in technology? Because you believe in miracles. Miracles are against rationality. Because the moment and you hold on to religion and miracles of the prophets and miracles any of the saints, then you'll be backward in knowledge, because you are against any knowledge, you are against any rationality. So many Muslims fell into this, and they thought that something is wrong with Islam, that we have to revive this religion, that there is a problem and all these things and all this confusion come about. But in reality, what you call Islam is not against any rationality, but when it comes to explaining Islam, it doesn't collide with rationality. There is no any difference between rationality and revelation. This is the beauty of Islam. Whatever beliefs in Islam, you can come to that conclusion by your rational thinking. How we understand Allah is one and God is one, rationally. So that is why we have rational evidence and textual evidence. So when we speak about Aqidah, our scholars they use rational evidence and also textual evidence. And there is no contradiction between rationality and revelation. Wallahu a'lam bis-sawab. So we will stop here inshallah, unless if anyone has any question. If there is no question, we close as usual with our dua. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.